I'm part of a super small cult following that actually seems to like Kane and Lynch. Granted, I was like 16 the last time I played it, so maybe I just thought it was edgy and cool, but even so, it's a good memory. I guess you could say I'm a Kane and Lynch apologist, so what better way to relive that memory than to go back and play it? Except it's the Java phone version, and it's a side-scroller. Here we are again, delving into this undiscovered world of odd Java spin-offs. This is a shooter/platformer that follows the plot of the main game very, very loosely. By that I mean it's condensed into these brief, simple text screens which boil down the story so much it's almost unrecognizable. Like, there's a bit of effort to make Lynch the crazy guy and to have the mad bants going between the lads, but there's nothing really of value in the writing here. It's very much just Kane saying, we need to do something, and then they go and do it. Towards the end of the game, the excuse for them going to Havana is just Kane being like, to take on the Seven, we must go to Havana, without any discernible reason why Havana is the place to go. The game provides 5 captivating scenarios and no less than 38 levels, full of adrenaline, reads the press release for this game, which was developed by a Danish studio called Kilu, who are still around today pumping out phone games and web games like a factory. Founded in 2000 and prior to Kane and Lynch, they were pretty well regarded with some successful self-published games, as well as deals with big IPs like Worms and Lego. They were definitely a safe option for this, and it probably helped that the developers of the main version, IO Interactive, are also situated in Denmark. Interestingly, they didn't go with Morpheme Wireless to develop this, despite the fact that they were acquired by Eidos before this, and they developed the mobile version of Hitman Blood Money, which we've looked at on the channel before. You go through the levels playing as Kane, with Lynch following along behind you. It has basic movement controls where you can shoot left or right, crouch, switch between 5 weapons on a weapon wheel, and jump. The levels are laid out in a pretty old school way, with ladders everywhere and buttons you need to activate to open doors. There's no real attempt to make them seem like real places structurally. If you press hash, you switch to Lynch's sniper, which you need to aim up or down. This will let you take out snipers and rappelled guys that shoot at you from the background. It'll let you shoot buttons that you can't reach, and it'll let you shoot security cameras, which close a door and stop enemies from endlessly respawning, because apparently shooting a camera overrides their system. Lord knows how that works. Generally, each level takes less than a couple of minutes, with the entire 38 level game being easily completed in under an hour. For the most part, the combat just entails shooting at enemies while they shoot right back at you. You're not agile enough to really dodge anything beyond crouching, which enemies will sometimes do themselves to hit you. One of my favorite enemy types dodges crouch shooting by spamming jump, which means he never really hits you, and you just hit his feet whenever they come into your bullet path until he eventually dies. Generally, the AI aren't too bad by phone game standards, but I just wanted to point this guy out because what a funny attempt at a solution to an exploit. The enemy types are for the most part slight variations on guys with guns, but occasionally they throw in a melee guy, which are super annoying if you get hit, because not only do you get knocked back, but you also get flipped in the other direction and you can't do anything until you land, like you can't control anything, and by that time you're about to get hit again. There's also the snipers, like I mentioned before, but they're generally useless enough that you can run past them, and there are enemies that rappel down from the ceiling, but they take 2 sniper hits to kill, so they're not really worth the effort either. Finally, there's the mortar guys, who only appear in the final level and are also useless and ignorable. I just realized I recorded this entire video without talking about the guns, so here we are, I guess. There's 5 guns in the game. Most of them are quite simple and they just kind of shoot the little projectiles. Some of them are more powerful than others, and those ones will use up ammo quicker, but generally you can ignore the really bad weapons. You can use the better weapons the whole time because ammo certainly isn't scarce. Every time you start a new area, so there's 5 areas in the game, every time you start a new area, you basically lose all your weapons and you have to collect them as you go through that area. But there is one weapon in the game that I really, really like, and that is the grenade launcher, which basically can take most enemies down in a single hit. And you can take down like an entire group of enemies, which is like the best thing about it. Probably the most satisfying thing you can do in Kane and Lynch Mobile is shoot one of these grenades at an entire pack of dudes and they all go down at once. And that's kind of fun in an otherwise fairly mediocre game. Yeah, take it easy. Sorry about this janky ass edit. Hope you're enjoying the video. Have fun. Something that I noticed towards the end of the game is that you can often just run past enemies to the end of the level and hope for the best. The combat isn't all that fun, and you pick up health often enough to mostly run past a lot of the game. They have these secret areas where you shoot fire extinguishers, which I guess blow a hole through an entire wall, and these areas are useful for grabbing ammo and health. Health packs heal both Kane and Lynch's health, which aren't shared, and if one dies then you fail the mission, which happens every so often, as it can present a bit of a challenge if you're not careful. I know I just said you can run past a lot lot of the game and I made it all sound like a breeze, but you do need to be a bit careful with it because you can just get swarmed, and there are some levels which are easier if you take them slowly. Overall, it is an easy game, but you do need to pay attention to get through it. Speaking of the levels, this takes place across 5 different locations based on the ones in the main game. It opens with the bank, which is based on the bank lobby, and they've done a pretty faithful pixel art job here. They got the pillars, the plants, the red carpet, and the general color scheme down pretty well. Unfortunately, the next level being the bank vault itself doesn't really hold up in the same way. This instead feels like some generic industrial area that's slightly sci-fi, nothing like the main game. Also, there's heaps of levels in this area which make me pretty impressed by this entire bank vault. Like, Jesus, if this is what bank vaults were really like, no one would ever try to rob one. Following this up is a brief handful of levels set in the nightclub, which are reasonably well done. Dancers flashing in the background replace the crowds from the main game, and it has a good enough vibe if a bit simplistic. The level ends with Lynch shooting the girl he was meant to take hostage, which is an example of how this game condenses the plot down a lot, because in the main game you actually do take her hostage and you go into the next mission with her alive to be used as ransom, but then Lynch freaks out and kills her, and it's like a big plot twist, but here Lynch just kills her straight up and Kane gets angry and then they move on. It's simple. The next level is based on the Great Skyscraper level, and like the bank lobby, they've done a good job at translating this over with a good looking skyline to be seen in the background through the windows. They also got these red pylons very right, which I appreciate. Finally, we have Havana, which looks about as generic and uninspired as those final Kane and Lynch levels were. Interestingly, these 2 final areas have spots where you're given a choice between 2 paths, but disappointingly, once you go down one path, it directs you back onto the other one afterwards, so it's a bit of a fake choice. At the very end, Kane just kind of saves his daughter, then it throws you back to the main menu screen as if nothing happened. It's a really far cry from the quite complex and dark ending in the original game. At this point, I was left underwhelmed and honestly pretty unimpressed with this whole game, so here's what I'd do to fix it. Firstly, do a co-op single player thing like The Lost Vikings, or if you're extra woke, Shrek 2 GBA. Make it so you can switch between Kane and Lynch and move them around the level independently where they have their own unique uses, and then design the levels around this so that they're a bit more cerebral. This would also feed into you feeling a bit of a bond between them, which would help with my next point, which is to actually try to write something decent. It doesn't need to be Shakespeare, but if they just took more liberties and set up a main villain that you're always after or something, and maybe split up Kane and Lynch at certain times for dramatic effect, they could have pulled off something more thoughtful. But, you know, I guess it is a bit of a big ask for a phone game, so I mainly think what they should have done is simply tightened up the gameplay. This could be a fun little Metal Slug or a Contra-style shoot-'em-up with a single-player co-op twist, make the characters more agile and fun to control so it's easier to dodge things, and make it so you can shoot in any direction while running and might actually work as a pretty fun little action platformer shooty thing, but instead it's really clunky and it doesn't feel right at all. Basically, if you made everything that's bad in this game good, then the game would be good. God, I'm insightful. So here we have an interesting question. Someone on my Far Cry 2 video made the point that maybe I shouldn't be making videos about games with little to no merit, and in a lot of ways, that's what this Kane and Lynch mobile game is. It's just kind of irredeemably mediocre, and going a step further than Far Cry 2 mobile or Blood Money mobile, you can't really look at the graphics or ideas here and say that there's anything interesting or valuable about them. It's just not good. So my question is, and this isn't rhetorical, I actually would appreciate your thoughts on this, should I even cover games like Kane and Lynch Mobile? Like, should I cover games that just lack any merit? Personally, I'm quite torn on this. On the one hand, no one has ever really dived into this game before, and I think that purely for curiosity's sake as well as historical reasons, I'm doing something valuable with a video like this. I like Kane and Lynch, and people who read the wiki and are wondering what the mobile game is can come and check this video out and find out, but on the other hand, there's nothing really to say about it that's particularly fascinating or gripping. It's just a bad game. I'll always do my best to make a video like this interesting, but the game itself is mostly not interesting, aside from its tie to Kane and Lynch. I guess that I'm probably thinking that I'm overthinking all this, but I don't know, maybe I should just do these kind of cases very occasionally between more interesting or insightful concepts. Let me know what you think in the comments. I really would appreciate your input on this. And on a lighter note, thanks for watching. I appreciate it as always, and I hope you enjoyed this look at a completely forgotten cash-in game. Take it easy.